Today's objective is to describe the main setting of the story by identifying where and when it takes place. Setting can be divided into where and when. Where means where does the story happen? Like where on planet Earth? Is it in space on a rocket ship? Is it at someone's home? Is it in a forest, a castle, on a train? Right? These are all where. Where is it taking place? Where is it occurring? When means when does the story take place? Like what time? During the daytime, at nighttime? Did it happen in the past, in a different part of history? Or did it happen during a specific month? Or we can see our pictures of the snowflake, leaves, and sunglasses. Did it happen during a particular season? So as we go through the story, think about where is the story taking place and when is it taking place. Our story is the story of Ferdinand. Once upon a time in Spain. Right, so look into the distance, right? What are you seeing in the background? Where did it say? It said once upon a time in, right, Spain. So we already know where. The story is happening in Spain. We might think also too, near a castle in Spain. There was a little bull and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to sit just quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree, and it was his favorite tree, and he would sit in its shade all day and smell the flowers. So look at the setting on this page. Where is Ferdinand sitting next to? Where is he? Is he in a city? Is he in the country? Right, we can see he's sitting at the base of a tree in the country, right? Because we can see all this open space far from the city, far from the castle. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. "Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head?" she would say. But Ferdinand would shake his head. "I like it better here, where I can sit just quietly and smell the flowers." I want you now to think about when is the story taking place. When do flowers grow? When do we have leaves on trees? Because we can look at the pictures and figure out these clues of when the story is taking place. Right? You might think summer, end of spring, maybe early fall, but most likely, definitely it's giving me that summer feeling because there's so much plant growth. It looks like it would be summertime to me. His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she let him just sit there and be happy. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. So again, we're getting another clue about where the story's taking place. Madrid is a city in Spain, right? A very big city that is known for its bullfighting, which is a sport in which there's a person in an arena or in a big open space with a red cape, and they try to get as close as they can to a charging bull without getting hit. All right, so this is a sport that they practice in the country of Spain. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to just sit quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. So we can see very funny hats. Yeah, very strange looking men. All the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care, so he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, and instead of sitting on the nice cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him. And that is just what this bee did to Ferdinand. So look at his eyes. They're really large because he's getting stung. He's like, ah! Right? Think about how you might feel if you got stung by a bee. Wow! Did it hurt? Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around, puffing and snorting, butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. The 5 men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. So they think that Ferdinand is an angry bull, but really, he just got stung by a bee, right? So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. What a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing, and all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. So take a look at our setting, right? We can see that where it's taking place is changing. Ferdinand is no longer out in the pasture with the other cows. Now he's being brought on a cart. Where? Right, if you said he's being brought to a city, good job, right? He's being brought into Madrid, the big city for the fight. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the banderellos with long, sharp pins with ribbons on them to stick in the bull and make him mad. Goodness. Next came the picadors, who rode skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull and make him madder. Oh, goodness, right? This sport is one that's not always nice to the bull. Then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome and bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull, and you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the banderellos were afraid of him, and the picadors were afraid of him, and the matador was scared stiff. Because remember, Ferdinand is the biggest bull out of all of the bulls in the pasture. And now we can see our setting has changed again, right? Now he's not in the cart traveling to the city. We would call this an arena. An arena is a big space where concerts or sports can take place, and there's lots of seats for people to sit in. And so we can see in the distance that there's a whole bunch of people filling the seats to watch this fight. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers in all the lovely ladies' hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled. And the banderellos were mad, and the picadors were madder, and the matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off his cape and sword. So they had to take Ferdinand home. So again, we can see our setting is changing. We can see the big arena in the background with all the flags on it, and the cities and the buildings in the background. And there's Ferdinand in the cart, right, being taken back out to pasture, right, back out to the country. And for all I know, he is sitting there still under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers, just quietly. He is very happy. So all throughout this story, we talked about setting, where, right, what places the story taking place, and the when. during the day, what season. So I want you to think back to everything that we discussed, everything that you thought, and put those thoughts into a complete sentence and share that with someone in your home by saying the setting of the story is, and fill in that where and when information. Good job.